It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome to a Friday. All right, more audio cuts.
All right.
Because we're trying to clear the desk. It's the last hour of the week.
Mm-hmm.
This was a reporter talking to Tom Homan yesterday, asking him just to give you a premise on it, because the sound may be a little bit, as we know, with all the modern technology that we have today, still the media hasn't figured out how to get clear audio.
Yeah, when asking a question.
Even in the NFL.
Yeah.
Well, this is the biggest game we've ever seen. Reporter, do you have a question?
Brian Regan, nunchucks and flamethrowers.
Yeah,
just
I've
go
seen
watch the special.
Yeah, I've seen
it's
that.
all. In fact, that's what that particular bit is about. That's where it got its title, and it's hilarious. And he makes the same point we do.
All the technology we have, there should be no problem, whether it's at the White House or whatever. Audio is not that hard. They have the directional mics.
You're capable.
We have the technology. We can do it. We're sending singers 1/100th to the moon.
Yeah. Well, can you imagine? Well, you just hit on something.
That's the old we can send a man to the moon, but we can't do this. That started after July of 1969.
We're sending pop stars to the outer atmosphere. Why can't we do this?
We're sending pop stars to the almost ionosphere.
Yes. Don't worry. She thinks she went to the moon. But can you imagine? Axl Rose comes out, and he just starts singing, and the mic is just there in the stand. He's just running all over stage singing. Like, dude, could you get over to the microphone? Could you?
Oh, it drives, especially in the NFL, because in the NFL, when they do the press conferences, that's in an assigned press room.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you got billions of dollars. You know, we're talking about something that's going to cost you $50.
Coach used to. That's a very good question. I think with the new stadium, that gives us opportunity to bring in more fans. Of course, more fans means more money, but beyond that, it means the support of our local community, and that pushes us, drives us even harder in our endeavor to win.
Unless it's Steve, unless it's Steve Kerr, Trump sucks.
And what we strive to do is score more points than the team we're playing.
All right, here we go. You ready? Here's a reporter saying, why not just arrest the leaders who are harboring illegal immigrants?
So the president signed an executive order just this week threatening to defund sanctuary cities for their policies. Why not just arrest the leaders who are harboring and shielding illegal aliens, actually terrorists, from deportation?
Wait to see what's coming.
Okay, now his microphone, the reporter's microphone, was actually better than his.
Yeah.
But he said, wait till you see what's coming, which sent the left crazy on X.
Yeah.
Now we're all scared. Every mayor needs to be scared. They're going to be arresting. And the concept is very simple, because you notice the judge talk was really, the judge in Wisconsin, was it Dugan?
Mm-hmm.
That talk was almost completely gone yesterday.
Yeah.
Because when the evidence comes out as to what they did, you're like, well, no, that's obstruction of justice.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have the Department of Justice and the local federal attorneys that are looking at this, they're the ones making the decision based on what's against the law.
Yeah.
And all Republicans need to keep doing is saying, no one is above the law, no one is above the law, no one is above the law.
Exactly.
And as long as the charges are legit, and from what I can see from the Wisconsin judge, everything is legit.
Yeah.
The left can scream and yell, they're going after judges.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then we'll yell back, you're going after the police.
Right.
We can do this all day.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're just going after the police, as, by the way, they did, they went after all police by stating, the great that, for example, that black police officers are not really black. They're blue.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
And that all police departments are systemically racist.
Right.
Which, of course, is ridiculous. It is not. But then again, in a lot of the large Democrat-led cities where identity politics lead, you do have the Democratic Party and the infrastructure there that we would say if you practice identity politics or DEI, you are racist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not what they were talking about,
Right.
though. But with Homan, you should see the smile on his face when they're asking the question. He's got this grin on his face. Where do you see what's coming? And they just freak. They're going to be arresting judges and mayors. And, well, if you break the law, yeah. I mean,
Right.
It used to be a bad thing. It used to be a bad thing for politicians and judges to break the law.
Right.
In fact, we used to hear things, well, if you're in the government or you're a judge, you should, or a police officer, right?
Mm-hmm.
You should be held to a higher standard.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, they should be able to break the law because we don't like the law.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
It's no one is above the law, and we'll also make the law up if we want to go after Trump.
All right, to this next audio cut. Again, this is Fox with the members of DOGE yesterday on Jesse Waters. And this is the one where it's really incredible because they say it takes a federal employee 6 months to retire from the government because workers, and it's still, I've got more questions from people that don't pay attention to politics. I go, what the hell are they talking about a mine? It's like that's where they keep all the paperwork.
It's called processing out.
Yeah, it's
And
like
it doesn't happen. You don't go in and say, see ya. Yeah. Insane.
But it's, you see, he holds up the documents that it takes to retire from the federal government. I am not exaggerating. It's got to be 1,000 pages.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they hold it up and they go, and the whole point is, why are we shuffling papers in a mine in the digital era
Right.
like this? But here it is.
That's why it takes 6 months.
What is that? So these are replica case folders that people use to retire from the government. And so these are all compiled by hand, moved around on carts through the mine. It takes many months to do that. And this one is a single retiree's paper required to leave the government.
So if somebody wants to retire, they can't because it takes 6 months to compile the paper and carry the paper into a mine where it is stored. And also, all the calculations are done by hand.
Everything has
in
to be
2025.
reconciled, adjudicated. This is thicker than the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah.
And if I had to process this, I would rather do my taxes in the dark than have to go through this.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing is we're bringing this process online with modern software. And I'm excited to share that as of tonight, we have 25 retirees going through an entirely online retirement process in the government for the very first time.
It sounds so simple.
Yes, and it's great collaboration with retirement services inside OPM. So this has always been their dream, and we're just here to help accelerate it.
That's a pretty fat stack. Was that Kissinger's?
Oh no, the record is almost several shopping carts.
There's a whole pallet for one retiree
As a
with
pallet.
27 boxes of paper on it.
Yeah.
It's almost as if they're in the horse and buggy era. And that's why you and I said earlier, look, the cutting has to come from Congress no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Pointing out the waste and inefficiency, and I think they've done a very, very good job for attempting to attack the monopoly, the biggest monopoly on the planet, which is the United States government. And trying to cut back on that. Because when you think about it, if you go digital and somebody can do it online, and you don't have hundreds upon hundreds, maybe thousands of people handwriting your retirement with documents that are 1,000 pages long.
Yeah.
And that's why DOGE needs to stay. However, it becomes part of the government. I don't know, though, how you can make it nonpartisan. That's the problem that you have, which then again is the reason that we're libertarians.
Yeah.
The federal government shouldn't be in charge of all of this.
Right.
Of so many of the things that they're in. Now, retirement, yes, for their employees, yes, but there's so many things that the government is involved in that states should be doing. It's why we're libertarians.
Right.
Because the bureaucracy is too far away from the American public. In your town, City Hall's right around the corner.
Yep.
You can actually call up and talk to your council person.
Yep.
You can do it. They're closer to you.
Mine lives a half block away.
And that's what you want. But when you sit there and you think about this, to see how the monopoly of government can be so incredibly antiquated, and when it comes to paperwork, Neanderthal. I mean, doing things the way we did things 100 years ago instead of using modern technology.
Yeah.
Why? Because this is a question I would ask. Why? I have to ask this question. The government unions? Why wouldn't it be a normal process to say we need to go from paper shuffling to using computers where people can do it online as they did? Remember, when they did it for Social Security, look, we want to be able to do it where people can go online, but older people need to do it on their phones or whatever. Well, that'll still be there, but we need to make sure that you are who you are if you call by the phone or whatever. But we're trying to get people, because that's where we're going as a nation, to do it digital. The pushback on that was unbelievable. The oligarchy's trying to destroy everything by making it easier for you to do things. Huh?
Yeah.
What?
Trying to save you money.
Yeah. Simple things that are done in the private sector every day.
And how many people does it take to be a part of a pallet of paperwork for one person to retire?
More than one.
Exactly.
How many people does it take to screw in a light bulb in the mine?
Yeah. Right. Well, first of all, we have to have a DEI meeting.
Could you imagine?
And what kind of light bulb is it?
And I did see when they commented on it. Yeah, and all of a sudden one day they said, well, you got to go down to the mine. What are you talking about? We're talking about paperwork. Yeah, it's in a mine. What do you mean it's in a mine?
Is there a short guy with a hump on his back down there? Talks funny? Leads you to the paperwork? A password at the door, and then they slide open the window? Say the magic word. Welcome to the mine, gentlemen.
But
what the hell, man?
I know.
Seriously.
And this is why it needs to be publicized, because there's been so much negative press coverage that all you got to do is present this to the American people.
Yep.
You present this to them.
Right.
And you go challenge. You say CNN, whoever.
Right.
You know, are you afraid?
Right.
Are you afraid to know what's going on?
Right.
And how things are running and what we're actually trying to do instead of your, over the top, insane Nazi oligarchy rhetoric?
We're going to find out the mine has its own union, like 200,000 employees.
And they're in the mine workers
in
union.
the mine union. What? I work in the job mine, the job retirement mine, the retirement mine in D.C. That's not real.
We're part of the mine workers union. What do? Shuffle paper.
We shuffle paper. Lots of paper. I drive a forklift at the mine.
Well, there seems to be no concern about trees.
No. That's not. Please.
Right?
Please.
No concern for climate change.
No. They built a mine. How'd they build a mine? Lots of mining equipment. No.
We don't have enough storage. Well, add more to the computer system.
I'm afraid.
No, we're talking the mine.
I'm afraid we're going to be told the mine has a basement. What? There's another level. Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It is.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Drought eradication nationwide for the month of April.
We started April with drought coverage at 43.4%. By April 29th, according to the U.S. Drought Monitor, that number was slightly below 37%, resulting in a net decrease in U.S. drought coverage of 6.4 percentage points.
USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey says for comparison, last autumn's peak drought coverage for the country was over 54%.
It means that we have dropped drought coverage in the U.S. more than 17 percentage points since the end of October 2024.
Dramatic improvements in April were noted in the Plains, Midwest, and parts of the eastern U.S.
However, we did see some deterioration in South Georgia and across Florida's peninsula. We also saw some April deterioration in the drought situation in the Southwest, in parts of Montana as well.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We don't have enough time because there's probably 50 audio cuts of the week, but we'll just give you some of our favorites here.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
This definitely is one of our favorites. Are you ready?
Okay.
Here we go.
I knew I was on the ticket, I would argue, because we did a lot of amazing progressive things in Minnesota that improved people's lives. But I also was on the ticket, quite honestly, because I could code talk to white guys watching football, fixing their truck, doing that I could put them at ease. I was the permission structure to say, look, you can do this and vote for this. And you look across those swing states, with the exception of Minnesota, we didn't get enough of the.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, number one, he's talking about a group of people that he views as being completely, totally morons that don't have the brain power to vote for Kamala Harris unless they have the permission of the white guy.
Yeah.
I mean, the incredible racism here is mind-boggling, but you're also saying that Kamala Harris doesn't have the ability to cross over with her ideas.
That's right.
And bring in white men, that all white men are racist. That gets right back to critical race theory here, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're promoting.
Mm-hmm.
We believe that white men can't vote for a black woman.
Right. And that's why they brought me in, because then I was the permission structure. Okay, guys, you can do this now. It's okay.
Especially if they're white guys watching football and fixing their trucks.
Because we all know, they're not going to vote for Kamala. I mean, can you blame them? I mean, it's, wow.
It goes back to what their base mindset is, and he doesn't even realize
He doesn't hear it.
He doesn't even.
In fact, he's proud of it.
Right. He doesn't even realize what he's saying. Or he does. And it's that they proudly promote their racist narrative because that's what they honestly believe.
It's not a lie if you believe it.
Every night on the Red Eye Radio app, available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Can't even tell you what the audio cut of the week would be because there's just too many. But I think the audio cut of yesterday was Stephen Miller when he was up there talking to the media about illegal immigration in this country and just, overall everything that has happened. When you think about this week or the last couple of weeks with the lawsuits and the Venezuelan gangs and El Salvador, and then you had the one judge that had illegal immigrants living with him, including a Venezuelan gang member, the former New Mexico judge, who became a former New Mexico judge after it was found out. That's when he resigned at that point, that he allegedly was harboring illegal immigrants. And then you have this Wisconsin judge and all the hype and hoopla. I mean, and you notice there's a pattern to it. They're screaming and yelling, and this is unfair and unconstitutional. And then when the facts come out, they just drop it, and then they go to the next one.
Right.
Even though they're going to be wrong on it, it doesn't matter. They jump on it before they know the facts. And as long as the administration continues to have legitimate charges, Democrats can scream all day. It's not going to do anything.
Nope.
And I think the other thing is that it was just, I think it was huge political news, not really news of substance, because it didn't change people's opinion on anything. But when we just played the Tim Walz thing, and of course the speech and the excerpts we played of Kamala Harris's speech, that was just viciously mocked to the point where Caroline Leavitt got up there and said, and we encourage the former vice president to keep giving speeches. I mean, it really did show, I think, that everything that we have discussed since the election last year, which is where did the Democratic Party, where do they go? And then there was the NBC had that thing, sources are saying that Kamala Harris is ready to go. She's come back with, the new ideas and everything else, and she's roaring. She's going to come and establish herself. And it was a complete disaster. Nothing had changed at all. There was no self-awareness whatsoever that I have to change in any way.
Right.
And I think that was a microcosm of everything that we have seen from the Democrats since November. They have no idea where the hell to go. Apparently, David Hogg is
yeah, we're going with Hogg now, not Hogue.
Yeah, we're going with Hogg now.
Yeah, try and keep up.
And I mean, that was hilarious. That was a hilarious news item this week. All right, they need to get rid of him. Why? Well, because the gender rules weren't followed.
Yeah.
The DEI gender rules weren't followed.
Yeah.
Even though we played it, everybody played it. The long rules and regulations of DEI and the weighted points for if you were female or what minority, and it was like, can anybody figure out this calculus formula? And in the end, two white guys win.
Yeah.
Oh, mean, it was just it was just beautiful.
Yep.
And not the two white guys won. I want to make that clear because I'm not a fan of either of the white men that were picked.
Right.
But we don't judge by the color of their skin.
Yeah, we were rooting for the conservatives.
Yes. And, we were rooting for the conservatives in the Democratic Party
That's right.
to win.
Yes.
And,
unfortunately, they don't exist.
Right. But I think this was just extremely effective yesterday. Number one, I mean, it rallies the base, but it also is so blunt from Stephen Miller at the press that this is something that you're not going to convince Democrats. They're going to go, and Stephen Miller is a moron. It is going to convince independents, and that's all you're looking to do.
Yeah.
Your base is going to stay with you. Left's never going to agree with you. You try to pull over unless you have the brain of the late David Horowitz. But it even took him 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, 10 years to admit it.
Right. Yeah.
That he had changed. We talked about him yesterday. But here it is. Here's Stephen Miller yesterday in front of the press.
It is a sad reflection on the state of our media and many of the outlets represented in this room that you obsessively try to shill for this MS-13 terrorist while no coverage occurred in your papers about any of the Americans that were raped and tortured and murdered by the illegals that Biden was importing into our country. You know, you talk about due process. The Biden administration made the decision to give extensive due process to 2 trained Nicaragua terrorists that were apprehended at the border just a couple years ago. They were 2 gentlemen. They were from Venezuela. They were members of trained Nicaragua. The Biden administration Border Patrol apprehended them and made the decision to provide them with extensive due process, put them onto a program known as supervised release, and put them on ankle monitors so that they could go through a lengthy legal, judicial determination as to whether these legal aliens who had just set foot on U.S. soil might want to live in the United States for the rest of their lives. What was the result of that decision? What was the result of that choice that was made? Those 2 men kidnapped a young girl named Jocelyn Ungary from her family. They beat her. They sexually assaulted her. They tortured her. They stripped her. They murdered her, and they dumped her body. That is what the Biden administration's policy was. Most of your papers never covered her story when it happened. To the extent that you covered it at all, it was because President Trump forced you to cover it by highlighting it repeatedly over and over again. He had to shame you into covering it. And each and every one of you that sides over and over again with these MS-13 terrorists, to the extent that you have the financial means to do so, you all choose to live in condos or homes or houses as far away from these kinds of gangbangers as you possibly can. If I offered any one of you a rent-free home with no taxes to pay in any of these gang neighborhoods, and I said your neighbors are MS-13 terrorists or Mexican mafia or Sinaloa cartel or trained Nicaragua, I couldn't pay you to live there. But yet you, with your coverage, are trying to force innocent Americans to have these people as their neighbors, and that one day their daughter may be abducted from their home and raped and murdered. So you're not going to get an ounce of sympathy from this administration or President Trump for the terrorists who've invaded our homes and our country.
Wow. You know, you and I said it when he started, representing the administration this time, and you got a new and improved Stephen Miller.
Yeah, by far.
By far. I mean, from the first administration.
Yeah.
You know how old he is? 39.
Okay.
I thought he was older.
But yeah,
he's 39. But wonderful yesterday. You cannot debate what he said.
No,
you can't debate it. I remember last week or the week before. I mean, we caught him in something that wasn't totally accurate, but it was like no big deal. The spirit of what he was saying was correct, and but it was. I don't think it was a big deal at that point. But most of the time, if you look at him, because you and I always watch the people that are speaking to see if they're reading. Mm-hmm. Like Karine Jean-Pierre.
Yeah.
We look at their mannerisms, and you can tell by their mannerisms whether they're confused, whether they're lost, and whatever. And she was constantly lost. That's why, she would just go through her, the binder.
Well, and she wasn't in, look, the administration, the Biden administration was lost completely. So it was inevitable
that she would be lost.
That she would be lost. But you still have to fake it until you can get it down. And she never learned to fake it even.
He's not reading anything.
No, because he has conviction. He has the same and carries with him the conviction of the president.
Yeah.
That's what you see up there, and that's what you should have at any podium.
Extremely articulate and blunt and non-apologetic, where the administration should not be apologetic at all, and should call the media out and call the last administration out. You have to continue, because there are people that will say, well, they keep bringing up, I remember you guys were making fun of Obama when he was blaming Bush 3 years later. Yeah, because it was just generalities.
Yeah.
The problem that exists today with these gang members being in the United States is directly correlated to the policies of the Biden administration.
Mm-hmm.
And so absolutely you have to bring that out and say, we got to this problem because the last administration created it, and you people right there sitting right in front of me, you enabled it.
Yep.
Because if I'm the administration, and you can see clearly they do, you've seen over the last 10 days, they want this argument, and they don't want it to end.
No.
Every time
No.
the Democrats come up and say something, or the media writes an article or does something, they attack right back.
Yep.
As they should.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you don't, because for far too long, any Republican administration does the eggshell walk. Well, it's important to understand. You might as well be a reporter asking a question at a press conference in the NFL, because nobody's listening to you. Nobody can hear you when you talk that way. Nobody wants to hear that. You go straight back at them. And when you see that happening, we talked about Tom Homan, and we played Tom Homan many times. And the reason we do that is because it's all about the conviction. You heard that from Stephen Miller. You hear that from every surrogate that the Trump administration has in every role right now. And it's what you need to hear.
Even Jonathan Turley brought it up. He talked about the children in these cases, talking about the child cases, the baby hoax. We're not being deported, as we said.
Right.
The parents are being deported and taking the children with them. Nevertheless, the media have pursued this misleading narrative because it is a fact too good to check. Having a child in the United States does not make the parents immune from removal or afford them special legal status over others who should be deported. As the administration seeks to increase deportations, these families must often make the choice to either leave with their children or arrange for a family member legally in the United States to take care of them. And it's that simple. But that's why the whole White House Correspondents' Dinner, because that's also a part of this entire week. And the Axios reporter, we need to do better. We said, shut up.
Yeah.
It's not about doing better. You're doing the best job you possibly can to be political activists.
Right.
And you could see it because the baby hoax that they all jumped on.
Right.
The media jumped on it.
Yep.
They didn't sit there and say, well, thank you, Axios reporter. I can't remember the guy's name at the moment. Thank you so much. We realize the error of our ways. We need to be journalists and weigh both sides of the issues.
In fact, let's put down our drinks right now. And we're just kidding. We're not going to put our drinks down. Yeah, we're all drunk. Yeah. And what he's saying it because he's drunk. It's not. Nobody believes.
Nobody believes it.
That they're ever or they have ever been concerned about the truth. They're not.
No.
True journalism.
We said
real journalism has a vital role in a free society, but we have very few true journalists.
We said it after the Mueller report was done.
Yeah.
And you had conservative media and even the Trump administration at the time saying, hopefully they'll learn from this. No. And we said, stop saying that.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
They're not journalists.
Right.
Stop it. Stop pretending that they're journalists and that they're going to learn anything.
Right.
The thing is, they don't feel shame. Well, I can't believe they're journalists. They don't feel shame because they're not journalists.
No, they're activists.
They're activists. They know they're eventually going to be fought. They know they're not speaking the truth.
Right.
They know they're going to be called out. They don't care if they can keep the narrative going even temporarily. That's their job.
Yep.
866-98-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. I would say an exhausting but great week.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm worn out. I didn't feel this worn out when I fell off the bull. Wow. I'm sorry. Was thrown violently off the bull.
I always think, when we have weeks like this, I always think, wow, I'm going to need these 2 days off. Then I get to Saturday morning, I'm like, I'm ready to go back.
Yeah, no, Saturday mid-morning, it's like, all right, what's going on? Anybody want to talk? Anybody want to talk? My family's like, no, we're good.
It's just all the delusional mindset from the left that becomes, it's hilarious, but it does become exhausting.
It does.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.